teachers at the Gambia College are on sit-down strike in protest of no payment of salaries and other benefits. Votes are being counted in South Africa's elections, with President Ramaphosa hoping to prevent a slide in support for the governing ANC.
My office stands ready to investigate and, where appropriate, to prosecute any persons party to the ongoing armed conflict.
The ICC Chief Prosecutor Fatou Bensouda has warned that her office stands ready to investigate and prosecute any person in the ongoing armed conflict in Libya. These are the headlines. More coming on your way on The World Today on iAfrica TV. Hello viewers, you are watching The World Today News Bulletin. We now kick off with our first story. News reaching iAfrica TV has revealed that the Gambia College lecturers are on sit-down for no payment of salaries and other benefits. It is 2 weeks now and there are ineffective lectures at the Gambia College. This is an alarming issue and a concern to all students at the college who are currently preparing for their semester. After several confrontations with senior officials of the college, especially the administration, it has been revealed that lecturers are being owed salaries, arrears, and other benefits. Well, to better understand the story, we will be speaking to the Information Minister of the Gambia College Student Union, Mr. Swaybusi. Good day, Mr. Swaybusi.
Hello, good day.
Yes, it's a pleasure to speak to you. Can you give us an overall description of the situation, the current situation there at the Gambia College?
All right. Thank you. The current situation at the Gambia College, as far as I am concerned, is that lectures are not effective here. Some students are in school, but lecturers are not reporting to class to give lectures as expected.
All right. What is the cause of that?
Yes. As the Information Minister of the Gambia College Student Union, yesterday, I took it upon me to visit the lecturers. Who I visited was Mr. Andrew Gomez, the president of the Gambia College academic staff.
Okay.
And what he told me was there are other pending issues that is denying the lecturers from not going to class or from not giving out the lectures expected. One of them is, he said, they're not benefiting from the 50% salary increment, which they are been fighting for quite a long time, so that could be beneficial to them, but it's not given to them. But the current issue here, the top of the matter, or the top of the matter here is their salaries are not paid up till date, and that is why they're not reporting to class. But he has made it clear that they are not on strike. That is to say, if they were on strike, they would not have report to school. But as I speak, a lot of them are in school campus, some are marking their papers, they're busy doing their work as lecturers.
Is this the first time that this is happening, that lecturers are having a sit-down strike due to salaries not being paid?
No, this is not the first time, but if you look at this other one, it's a bit different. The previous sit-down strike that we used to witness here used to look like lecturers will not come to school and they will stay at home. They won't have any business to do here at the Gambia College. But this other one is a bit different. Like I said, they are not on sit-down strike. But what they are doing right now is not to report to class, and that is showing a signal to the administration and the stakeholders responsible for their salaries, that if they don't have their salaries, they will not report to work effectively.
To what extent has this situation affected the students?
It has affected us a lot. Student leaders, we've got several confrontations from different students with regards to the current situation. Students are complaining that it's 2 weeks now and lectures have not been effective. They have all rights to complain, and they're saying time is not on their side. They should be on class by now to do one or two things.
Okay, what has your student union done in terms of trying to meet the management of the school or even the Ministry of Higher Education?
Right now, what we do as student leaders, we try to engage the senior officials here at the Gambia College, more especially the administration and the lecturers, to hear from them what is the problem, why is it that lectures is not effective for the past 2 weeks. And they were able to give us the feedback. They were able to tell us their salaries are not paid, and some other issues which lead to the ineffectiveness of lectures. And as student leaders, that was what we inquired from the senior officials here in the Gambia College, both sides, and we relayed that information to the students. And we promised the students to stay calm, as we will still continue to do our efforts to make sure the situation is calm, to make sure the lecturers are back to class effectively.
Thank you very much, Suebo. It was a pleasure to have you give us an enlightenment on such issues. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
That was Mr. Suebo C giving us an enlightenment on the current situation at the Gambia College. Votes are being counted in South Africa's election, with President Cyril Ramaphosa hoping to prevent a slide in support for the governing African National Congress ANC. With results declared in some 38% of districts, it has won about 56% of the ballot, while ahead of the opposition Democratic Alliance DA on 25%. The ANC took 62% at the last general election in 2014. Anger over the economy and corruption may have eroded its appeal. The Radical Economic Freedom Fighters EFF is in the third place with 9% based on the official early results. Analysts say that if the ANC vote remains above 55%, it will enable President Cyril Ramaphosa to strengthen his grip on the party. Al Hassan Sise has more.
You know, people are crying for service delivery, blah and blah, but we have to vote because people died for it. Whatever I'm doing it for my children. You understand? I took an early retirement because I had no money to pay universities for my children. Then I use my pension money. I don't have anything. And the children are finished. They've got degrees. They are not working. So what's that? So when are our children going to get those chances? Guys, come on, guys, come on. Let's go for the new people, guys. Let's go for the new people. Maybe they might do something well. I don't know.
But if you don't vote, you don't voice up your voice, because voting is an important thing. When you vote, you get to decide who will rule your country, who will decide for you on your behalf. So if you said, no, I don't want to vote, then you give the opposition maybe, or people that you don't want them to rule your country,
I'm undecided, but we'll see what happens in the booth. We need a party that can come and do some sweeping up. I don't trust the ANC to sweep up their own mess. So we sort of like need an interim party to just come and do the cleaning up, and then after that maybe we can reconsider what we do. But I know who I'm not voting for, but I don't know who I'm voting for just yet. I've been having thoughts about it, and I know that we're not meant to be voting for a person, we're voting for a party. But some parties, the leaders there aren't very promising. So I think I might be voting for a person who leads a party, and it needs to be somebody with strong will and someone I would trust to clean up.
President Cyril Ramaphosa also gave a statement in relation to the elections. Let's hear his part.
A period of renewal, and it's also a period of hope. The confidence that is just being emitted by our people is just amazing. This is a vote that reminds us of 1994. Because in 1994, our people were just as excited as this, because they were heralding a new period, a new future for our country. And today, this is what I am also picking up. Our people are really excited about what lies tomorrow, and they want to vote for a government that is going to serve them, that is going to address their needs, their aspirations, and they have great confidence that we will be able to do so.
Well, the political environment there in South Africa actually seems to be very interesting currently. The International Criminal Court's ICC Chief Prosecutor Fatou Bensouda has told the Security Council that her office stands ready to investigate and, where appropriate, to prosecute any persons party to the ongoing armed conflict in Libya, should they engage in conduct constituting a crime within the jurisdiction of the ICC. Bensouda said all parties to the armed conflict must take all necessary measures to protect civilians and civilian infrastructure, including schools, hospitals, and detention centers.
My office stands ready to investigate and, where appropriate, to prosecute any persons party to the ongoing armed conflict, should they engage in conduct constituting a crime within the jurisdiction of the ICC. All parties to the armed conflict must take all necessary measures to protect civilians and civilian infrastructure, including schools, hospitals, and detention centers. In particular, I urged commanders, whether military or civilian, to ensure that their subordinates do not commit Rome Statute crimes. The law on this is clear. Where a commander knew or should have known that their subordinates were committing or about to commit crimes and failed to take all necessary and reasonable measures within his or her power to prevent or repress such crimes, the commander may be held criminally responsible. The status quo is not sustainable. Impunity for atrocity crimes is hardly conducive to bringing peace and stability to this war-torn country. I take this opportunity to renew my call for state cooperation with the arrest and transfer of ICC suspects, and ask this council to lend its support by taking a clear and vocal position in support.
Sudan's opposition leaders are threatening to launch a nationwide civil disobedience movement after accusing the military council of delaying the transfer of power to civilians. Both sides have disagreed on several key terms. The military leaders are warning about holding elections in 6 months if an agreement can be reached with the opposition.
Sudan's Opposition Change and Freedom Alliance is threatening to wage a campaign of civil disobedience if the ruling military transitional council refuses to swiftly hand over power to a civilian authority. At yesterday's news conference in the capital Khartoum, Khalid Omar Youssef, Secretary General of the Sudanese Congress Party, accused the MTC of maneuvering to avoid relinquishing executive power. We have many options, including demonstrations and sit-ins, along with plans for a civil disobedience campaign, Youssef said. But we would rather reach a negotiated settlement with the MTC if the latter can take the situation seriously, he added. On Tuesday, the MTC rejected a draft proposal tabled by the opposition alliance. Medani Abbas Medani, a leading member of the Change and Freedom Alliance, said the MTC's continued rejection of the opposition proposal was complicating the situation. He described the MTC's recent statement on the role of Sharia law as an attempt to distract attention from the main issue, namely the sought for handover of power to a civilian authority. Medani accused the MTC of resorting to the tactics of the former regime. He went on to assert that Sudan's sprawling security apparatus was still running the country. On April 11, the Sudanese army announced the removal of President Omar al-Bashir following months of popular protests against his 30-year rule. The MTC is now overseeing a 2-year transitional period during which it has pledged to hold free presidential elections. Demonstrators, however, have remained on the streets to demand that the military council hand over power at the earliest possible date to civilian government. Reporting for iAfrica TV, I am Al-Hassan Sise.
Millions of dollars in emergency funding is needed in Gaza to save the shattered limbs of the 1,700 people who were seriously injured in demonstrations against Israel, a top UN humanitarian official said. In an appeal for $20 million to help victims hurt during the Great March of Return, weekly protests on Friday by Gazans that began a year ago, leaving 29,000 people injured, many by live ammunition. Jamie McGoldrick, humanitarian coordinator for the occupied Palestinian territory, said that more resources were urgently required.
We're running against the clock for some of these cases, and osteomyelitis, bone infection, will be a crisis, and they needs to treat that, prevent that, otherwise we'll have amputations. 120 amputations have taken place since the beginning of the demonstrations on the Friday, 20 children among those who've been amputated as well. The technical ability of doctors on the ground to carry out treatment required for the 1,700 just doesn't exist. Of that 29,000, 7,000 have been shot with live ammunition, and those are the ones who have been treated in facilities that were under very serious stress anyway. So the health structures really are in bad shape, and that's why we put this appeal out for $20 million to address the needs of that 1,700 people, but also to support the health system in a way that's currently not being supported. And we need the money, we need the resources. So we're fighting funding gaps on the health front, fighting funding gaps on the food front, and the whole economic collapsing of the system when people don't have jobs. The situation is very precarious, and I think that the need for a political solution is all the more highlighted because of how easy it is to slip into something very quickly.
Coming up after the break, the European Union has rejected Iran's 60-day ultimatum referring to Tehran's decision to quit parts of the 2015 nuclear agreement a year after the US withdrew from the landmark accord. Welcome back. You're watching the World Today News Bulletin. We now take a look at the remaining stories. The European Union has rejected Iran's 60-day ultimatum referring to Tehran's decision to quit parts of the 2015 nuclear agreement a year after the US withdrew from the landmark accord signed with major world powers, including the EU. In a joint statement with the foreign ministers of France, the United Kingdom and Germany, the EU urged Iran to respect the nuclear deal and said they regretted fresh US sanctions imposed on Tehran. The nuclear deal, formerly known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, was designed to curb Iran's nuclear program in exchange for sanctions relief. The European Union on Thursday called on Iran to fulfill its commitments to the nuclear deal in a joint statement by Germany, France, and the UK. We remain fully committed to the preservation and full implementation of the JCPOA Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, a key achievement of the global nuclear non-proliferation architecture, which is in the security interest of all, the statement said. The three countries called on Iran to fulfill its commitments and rejected any ultimatums, it said, adding that they will assess Iran's compliance to the nuclear-related commitments on the JCPOA and the Non-Proliferation Treaty. The landmark agreement between Iran and the PF+1 group of nations, the 5 permanent UN Security Council members and Germany, imposed strict curbs on Tehran's nuclear program in return for the lifting of long-standing US sanctions. On Wednesday, Iran's President Hassan Rouhani threatened to depart from the deal within 60 days if Tehran interests were not protected. Iran is also prepared to resume its uranium enrichment activities whenever necessary, according to the head of Iran's Atomic Energy Agency, Ali Akbar Salahi. We strongly urge Iran to continue to implement its commitments under the JCPOA in full as it has done until now and to refrain from any escalatory steps, the joint statement said. Germany, France, and the UK said they are determined to continue legitimate trade with Iran and regret the reimposition of sanctions by the US. Last year, US President Donald Trump withdrew Washington from the nuclear deal, and what followed was a maximum pressure campaign with the Trump administration reimposing economic sanctions on Iran's energy and banking sectors. A massive car bomb followed by gunfire rocked downtown Kabul, Afghanistan's capital yesterday. At least 9 people were wounded in the attack, the Public Health Ministry said based on initial estimates. Nusrat Rahimi, spokesman for the Interior Ministry, said the blast took place in the upmarket Suhar al-New area that has many restaurants and is frequented by shoppers. The Attorney General's office, a number of non-government organizations and private guest houses also located in the vicinity. Taliban spokesman Zabihullah Mujahid claimed responsibility for the attack in a statement released on social media. Uber, Lyft, and other app-based drivers participate in a rally outside the Uber and Lyft headquarters in New York, United States. About 200 or 300 protesters gathered on the sidewalk outside of Uber's SF headquarters. A small band played as the crowd chanted, "Drivers United will never be defeated." There were helicopters, a strong police presence, and a lot of media on the scene. Passing cars with both Uber and Lyft placards hung as they drove by. Organizers used a megaphone to deliver their grievances to Uber and said they would be back if the ride-sharing company doesn't speak with them.
They've got $100 billion on the board. We know this is a company that makes up false data. We've even gone to court against them. Sleeping giants have awoken. We've sent a message to Uber and Lyft. This was just our first shot. It's going to get better and better. They have agreed to not strike and also to not challenge Uber's labor violations. So of course they would never strike. They get paid by the bosses. Unprecedented global movement. I am a lifelong labor activist. Not only did IDG turn their backs, and they had to because they're overmasked.
Well, viewers, that's all we have for you on the World Today News Bulletin. For more on these and other stories, kindly log on to our website, iafrica.tv. I am Fatoumata Jaju. Bye for now.